Well, all right. Hey, welcome everybody to the IEPPV business class, one of three. We're going to have our host, Frederick Van Johnson, is going to be teaching the class. I am going to be running it in the background. My name is Troy Miller. I am with IEPPV and F64 Live. You guys can check out those websites. That would be awesome. Frederick, I was going to go through this big introduction for you. I had it all figured out. I had confetti and all that. And then I looked at your slides and I
I did it
realized
myself.
you did it yourself and you don't need me. And that's wonderful. So see, I'm looking at I'm just going to scroll right past all those notes that I have.
Do it.
But one thing that we are going to cover tonight is a few of the things he's going to cover is marketing, marketing versus bragging, automating your social posts, owning your friends instead of borrowing them from Facebook. Some good titles in here. Each one of these could be a show by itself.
Right.
How often should you be posting? Daily, weekly, hourly, moment by moment, and a few other things. So just a little heads up for those of you who may not have been in a Zoom webinar with us before. At the bottom of your screen, and maybe on your phone, I think it might be at the top of your screen, is a Q&A button, a chat button, and maybe a participants button. And that way you can see who's in here. In the chat, feel free to chat amongst yourselves. I can see those. You can chat to each other independently or to the whole group. And there's also the Q&A option. Now in the Q&A, that's where you're going to ask a question. If Frederick sees it, then he can respond to it, directly by voice if he chooses. If I see it and we don't get it answered right away, I'll try to jump in there and answer that for you, or I'll interrupt Frederick and I'll prompt him to maybe address that. If we don't get to them through the show, we'll definitely get to them at the end. So, and with that, Frederick, you ready?
I'm ready.
You have the helm, my friend.
I have control. I feel like I'm on stage by myself. Have I done this before? Once or twice?
Yeah. Here we go.
Once or twice a week. I've done this. No, this is good. This is going to be exciting. Thanks for having me on, Troy. This is going to be fun. This is very timely too, as you'll find out as we walk through the presentation. That you don't even know this, that there's a course that's going up in the TWiP school of the same name as this webinar, the Creative Solopreneur. It's still in production. It won't launch until May 1. But this is kind of a sneak preview of what's going to happen in there. We only have, an hour to do this, and that is multiple hours long. So this will be the accordion scrunched version of that course. So
perfect.
We ready to do this?
We're ready. Go ahead and take it away. You're going to start sharing your screen?
Yep, I am right now. Let's see, desktop, share. All right, maybe we should be up here. There we go. All right. Okay, let me know if you can see it. And I see my thumbnail in there. Is that my video? Is that right?
Well, if it's in there, yes. I don't know. I don't see it on my side.
Okay, cool. Ask the audience, can they see it?
Audience, can you see Frederick's thumbnail in there? Or you should just be able to see his screen? Oh, so we have thumbnails on.
There you go. See? How many fingers am I holding up?
Careful how you do that. It means something different. Didn't you?
I know. Yeah, there's like very few finger combinations you can hold up that you won't offend somebody.
Right.
Wait, here you go. How about that one?
Perfect.
All right. Well,
good job. Well, I'm gonna stop my video so we don't need my thumbnail in there.
Okay.
And it's all yours. Take it away.
All right, here we go. All right, everyone. Like Troy was saying, my name is Frederick Van Johnson, and you are in an IEPPV webinar. This one is kind of put on in association with This Week in Photo, the company that I run. This is all about the creative solopreneur, or how to run your business or your social media presence with as little friction as possible. But before we get started, I want to bring on some dancers to kind of warm up the crowd for us, and then we'll get started. So these guys have agreed to warm us up so that we can be relaxed as we walk through our presentation. All right, so let's jump into it. So this is the Creative Solopreneur. If you guys want to hit me up on socials, you can find me at Frederick Van. It's down at the bottom of the screen. I'm pretty much that name on all social media platforms. You should be able to find me. Okay, so let's dive into this. I wanted to kick this off with a quote from William Shakespeare. Some are born great, others achieve greatness. And what does that mean as it applies to the creative solopreneur? That some are born great part of this, you could scratch that out, and it's the others achieve greatness is what it takes to be a solopreneur. And that means we're all on an even playing field, and the tools that successful online personalities or businesses use are the same tools that are available to you. And it just takes effort and trying and practicing and failing, and then getting back up and trying again in order to be successful in this stuff. So I thought that was appropriate to start with. So at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give away something pretty valuable to you guys. So please stay tuned to the end of the presentation. We're going to go about, 40 minutes or so, Troy? So we'll go 40 minutes or so. And
as long as you need to.
Okay, so we'll go about 6 hours. 6 hours. We'll go through this. No, this is about 40 minutes. This is designed to be about a 40-ish minute presentation. And then at the end, there'll be something that you guys will definitely want to hang around for. So stick around. All right. So, hi, I'm Frederick. So this is there's a couple of slides here that I put in here just to kind of give you guys some background as to who I am and why I feel like I'm qualified to be presenting this presentation to you. First of all, I'm a photographer. Most of us that are in this presentation are photographers. There's some people that are photographers and some people that just like to hang out with photographers. I'm also a podcaster and a marketer. I love both of those things equally. One is kind of an ongoing way for me to keep my finger on the pulse of photographers and people in the world through podcasting. And marketing, as you'll find out later in this presentation, it's kind of a dark art of influence. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit. I'm also a digital content creator. What does that mean? That kind of means I feel like it's kind of like alchemy, right? Where in the digital world, we're just rearranging electrons and selling them, and then getting currency back that we can convert into atoms and go buy stuff with, right? So you're really just like even iTunes, sites like iTunes, they're just rearranging electrons and selling them to you as movies or music. And then you give them hard-earned currency and they can go buy stuff with it. So digital content creation. I'm also an educator and an entrepreneur. I love to teach. I've written a book, working on another one. Or at least the outline for it. And the entrepreneur side, we'll get into that in just a second. The other sort of business part of Frederick is I'm a father, I'm an uncle, I'm a brother, I'm a son. I'm someone's cousin, nephew, and friends. I'm a veteran, and if you were in the pre-show, you'd also know that I'm a sci-fi nut, much like your host, Troy Miller. So I'm unapologetic about being a sci-fi nut. All right, so let's dive into this thing. So my background is I started in the United States Air Force as a combat photojournalist. I was in for about 8.5 years and shooting Nikon the entire time, loved it. Then I left there and I joined the San Jose Mercury News as a web designer, if you remember that career field. And then I moved in to take over the creative group and became a chief multimedia producer over there. And then I left there and joined Yahoo when it was cool. It's no longer cool because they're kind of a department of Verizon or something, I guess. But I was there back in the cool days. And I left there and I joined Apple. And Apple, I was on the team that managed iPhoto, the marketing side of the house, managed iPhoto and also Aperture, if you remember that app. Then I moved over to Adobe and took over the professional photography marketing segment for Lightroom and Photoshop. And then one of the other things I did is I was the chairman of the board of trustees at Brooks Institute, which unfortunately is no longer with us. They shut the doors, about a year and a half or so ago. So we no longer have Brooks, but I had the pleasure of serving there as the chairman of the board for a while. So Miss Brooks, and it was a great experience. But This Week in Photo is the company that I run, and a lot of the stuff that I'm going to teach you guys today is based on the learnings that I've learned over the decade-ish that I've been running this business, This Week in Photo. So what is This Week in Photo? So this Week in Photo is basically a bunch of little components that combine to make something larger than the sum of its parts, kind of like Voltron, if you remember that. So there's the website. We got a very popular website right there at thisweekinphoto.com. We've also got a school at school.thisweekinphoto.com where we serve up photography courses, and we'll be adding consultation and those sorts of products into the school very soon. There's also a very popular podcast, or actually a series of podcasts, on this Week in Photo on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play. We are in the many millions of downloads on This Week in Photo, the podcast. We have the TWiP Pro Community, which is a place for the fans of TWiP, mostly the show and the blog, to come and hang out and exchange ideas and get input and feedback on photos and share deals that they find, all that kind of stuff. That's what the TWiP Pro Community is, and that's at twippro.com. And then there's our meetup group. We've got about 1,400 members in there. It started in San Jose, and now I am in Sacramento, California. So the meetup group is relocating here to the Sacramento area. And then lastly is our YouTube channel. Last check, we had about 1.7 million views on there with just about 12,000 subscribers. So a lot of not very many subscribers generating a whole lot of views. So almost 17 million people have watched our videos on there. So that's who I am, and that's who This Week in Photo is. But let's talk about what we're going to learn tonight. So tonight is about putting things in a box. So the world of social media and marketing can be very complex and can be very overwhelming with new tools and techniques. And should I be posting here and there? When should I not be posting? What should I be posting on? And the politics around Facebook. Should I be on Facebook? Should I be off Facebook? All this stuff. We're going to try to answer most of those questions this evening. So I want to help you understand your goals and put a box around what it is you're trying to do on social media. And that could be anything from I want to generate leads, I want to make friends, right? So you have to, in order to get to where you're going, you got to know your destination. So we're going to try to understand that. We're going to talk about positioning yourself in the market itself. Like where are you? Like what do you want your perceived facade to be in the market? For example, do you want to be perceived as a Target, or do you want to be perceived as Walmart, or do you want to be perceived as Tiffany's, or what is the what's the kind of look and feel you're going for your online persona? We're going to spend a significant amount of time on email marketing, and this is especially important today considering current events around a lot of social media. Email marketing is and remains the kind of the bedrock of a lot of the stuff that we need to do as an online solopreneur. And then lastly, I think this is the last one, avoiding social mediocrity. And that is just swimming with the school of fish because you feel like that's the right thing to do. Like you don't want to be the one in the middle of the school of fish, just like, okay, they said go left, so I'm going left, right? You want to be at the head, or you want to be swimming alone somewhere, right? So we're going to talk about all that today. All right, so social media, right? Why bother? the social media stuff. It's a fad, right? It's going away. What was it? We had Friendster. Well, you can go back further than that, but we'll start with Friendster, and then we had MySpace, and then Facebook, and then, you know, we'll have something else after Facebook, I'm sure. But then there's also, along with Facebook, we've got Twitter, Instagram, Google Plus, if that's still kicking around. We've got LinkedIn. It goes on and on and on, right? There's all these different places where you could reach out and talk to your audience. But there's several questions that you have to answer for yourself when you decide to jump into social media marketing and solopreneurship online. That is, who are your customers? Where are they? Why are they there? What are they doing? When should you be talking to them? And how should you be talking to them? So these 6 questions are the meat and the bulk of this presentation. So let's start this off. So there's some questions that you have to ask yourself. The who, you know, what's the who? It's, who are you talking to? Who are your clients? Who are you talking to? People that are your friends, your family, which means the vernacular that you use to talk to them can be much more informal versus formal and, you know, perfect, right? You could just say whatever you want to say. The where is, where should you be posting? Where are your people at? If you're in this for business, you're going to be posting someplace completely different than if you were in this for other reasons, right? So you need to understand that. And then, why are you doing this? And then we're going to dive into that a lot as well. The other side of this is the what, the when, and the how. The what is what's the content that you should be posting? What are you putting up there? What are you putting online? And then the what you put online will dictate when you should be putting it online. We're going to talk a lot about that and some time zone concerns and that sort of thing. And then, how should you be posting it? We're going to get into some tools and some strategies that you can use to maximize your solopreneurship. Because solopreneurs means, or being a solopreneur means, you're the owner, you're the salesperson, you're the marketing manager, your customer support, your IT, your business development. It goes on and on and on. You're all these things that you have to, you know, put on those hats. So how you put on those hats and dividing out and automating a lot of the things that you have to do are what this presentation is about. So let's talk about email marketing first. And in the beginning, when I started this presentation, I was kind of highlighting that email marketing is critical, especially these days. And one of the main reasons is people are starting to understand the strings that are attached to social media, not just Facebook. Most, if not all, free services. If a service, here's the rule of thumb: if a service is free online, guess what their product is? You. So you are the product. So it's nothing new with Facebook monetizing their user base by collecting data and selling. I mean, if you've ever purchased a Facebook ad, you know the user interface behind Facebook, when you can target an ad down to the demographic minutia that they get into, that you can target your ads. You could say, people that are this height in this zip code that do this and have this annual income. You could target down to that level of minutia and then pay the exact fee for that. And Facebook's not the first one to do that. Google, I think, pioneered doing that sort of targeting. Google and Yahoo pioneered that. Facebook just took it to a whole new level. But that's neither here nor there. The saving grace and what is the benchmark or the underlying sort of bedrock through all this stuff since Friendster all the way through to today is email marketing. It's still there. Email is still here. We still use email. If we sign up for things, we still use email. No matter how much Facebook tries to get us in there, we still use email. Your bank is not Facebooking you, they're emailing you, right? Email it's not going away. And how it fits into your overall strategy is that email, I want you guys to think about email, excuse me, I want you to think about email as earth. This is your home. If email is your business, it is earth. And then we have around email or around your main home base, which is the planet Earth, you have all these other services, right? So we've got Twitter and all these other social networks, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, etc. The thing that I want you to keep in mind is that these services are ancillary to your email list, and they should be helping you even in the back of your mind. Even if you're not always doing it, it should be in the back of your mind that you're driving people to your list. And why do you want to drive them to your list? Because if one day Instagram goes away or Facebook goes away, or they all go away, or they change their terms of service, or they do whatever, you don't want that to affect your bottom line. You don't want that to affect how you pay your mortgage or your car payment, because in some marketing meeting at Instagram, they decided that they're going to go X instead of Y, right? And the only way to safeguard that and stop digital sharecropping, as I call it, is to use your email or use an email list to have control of those leads and those friends and whoever, your list of people that you need to contact. If you have everyone on an email list, then those services can go away. If a new one pops up, a couple days later, you can point the party over there and say, hey, the party's over here now. If they kick you off of one or more of these platforms, it's not the end of the world. If you've built up a constituency of 1 million people on followers on Facebook or friends on Facebook, and 2 million Twitter followers, and then 1 million subscribers on YouTube, that's a lot of responsibility that you're allowing these third-party companies to own. It's great to have those, and I'm not advocating shutting those accounts down. I'm advocating using this metaphor where you are in the center of it and you are driving people to your email list. But then the question becomes, okay, great, I'm going to drive people to my email list. How do I get them on my email list? They're not just going to join up from the kindness of their hearts, right? So in email marketing or in internet marketing circles, there's this concept of the ethical bribe. So what is the ethical bribe? Basically, the ethical bribe is you give somebody something for something. So you've done it a million times. You go to a website and you want to get a free PDF on how to do X, Y, and Z. You got to sign up to get it. So you're exchanging your email address for that report. Now you're on their list. Now chances are they're going to start a conversation and a dialogue with you over time. You've done it a million times. Whenever you sign up for something to get something for free, that's not a service. If you're signing up and they say, hey, just sign up and you get this, this recipe for doing so-and-so, of course you got to give them your email address because they have to send you the document. But that's the ethical bribe. Now you've been bribed and now you're on their list, and rinse and repeat. It keeps going. So there's a million different ways you could do. There are a million different kinds of ethical bribes that you can use. It could be anything from a coupon for products and services, or a discount on your products or services. It could be a PDF. Say you're a wedding photographer. It could be a PDF for prospective brides on just like 1 or 2 pages. 10 ways to ensure that your wedding day goes successfully. Who could resist that, right? And it's free. So they could download it. Now you start to get a bunch of brides on your list. So when you start thinking that way, it doesn't have to be a grandiose, 900-page PDF file. It could be a single page cheat sheet, or a infographic, or even an MP3 file. Hey, this is me talking for 20 minutes about some tips and techniques to do X, Y, and Z. It's a digital file. As long as it's digital, you can use it as an ethical bribe. So definitely keep that in mind. So let's talk about email service providers and a few options around email service providers. So there's MailChimp. Now, well, before I go back, let me go back one. So what is an email service provider? We call them ESPs. What's an email service provider? An email service provider is a company, basically it's a database company. When you fill out a form on a site and give someone your email, that email and your name and whatever information that's captured in that form is being sent to an email service provider. An email service provider puts it in a database so that you can then later log in and send emails out to anybody who signed up to your list. That's an ESP. Some of the more popular ESPs, MailChimp is one of them. Aweber, very popular. Constant Contact, Mad Mimi. I could go on for about 30. I've tried 2 out of these 4, Aweber and MailChimp. I started with Aweber, didn't like it. I like MailChimp's sort of user interface and their ethos for doing business. They just seem to be more of a buttoned up kind of company to me. But this was a couple of years ago. Aweber may now be like that. But in the end, your email service provider is critical, but it's not, you shouldn't think of it as a permanent decision. Like I said, I started with Aweber and then decided I didn't like it, exported my list, closed my Aweber account, imported my list into MailChimp, kept going, right? So it's not, you know, and in the end, the subscribers on the other end have no idea and don't care what email service provider you're using. It should be completely abstracted to them. But some things to consider when you're looking at email service providers. Now, this is important stuff here because this gets overlooked a lot, especially in email marketing. You guys are going to be empowered with this. First of all, there's the all-important word called deliverability. What is deliverability? That is, if you understand how the internet works, basically the internet is a web of computers that are all connected to each other. That's why we call it the internet, right? Or the web. So there's millions of computers around the planet that are all interconnected. When you send an email from your computer or your phone or tablet or whatever to another email address, that message has to bounce through a number of servers. Who knows how many? It could be 5, could be 10, could be 50, right? It's got a bunch, and it's going at the speed of light. So it's nearly instantaneous that it makes it to its destination. But each one of those acts as kind of a traffic cop, and or even a better analogy would be customs, right? So your message is going through, let's say, 50 customs agents before it can get to its final destination. Any one of those customs agents could say, no, this is not going through on my server. This looks like spam. And if that happens, your message stops right there. The other person doesn't get a message or a notification that something was sent and they didn't get it. They just don't get anything. It just stops and vanishes into what we call the ether, right? So that's deliverability. The ability for your message to go from your computer, phone, tablet, whatever, to the destination and get there successfully. Some email service providers are better at deliverability than others because they basically, I won't go into it, but basically they get ranked and scored, and the lower the score, the lower the likelihood your message will make it through to its destination. Then the second thing is autoresponders. Now I would argue that probably 100% of the people that are watching this either now or in the future are on an autoresponder list of some sort. So in the ESP world, an autoresponder, if you don't know already, is a sequence of emails, could be an infinite sequence of emails, but we'll just say a year for the sake of this example. Let's say it's 52 emails that are pre-written and pre-programmed to go out at certain times, right? Then that certain time could be X or N number of days from the previous email that was sent to that person, or on certain dates, like the week before Thanksgiving, the week before Christmas, on Black Friday, on Cyber Monday. You can program emails to go out automatically over time based on when the person signed up, or based on dates. And what that gives you is you could spend, let's say, a good week, 2 weeks or whatever, writing out your entire year of emails using a service like Aweber. Write them all out, get them pre-programmed out to go out automatically. Now you are constantly communicating with your customer base, and then you don't have to worry about, oh, wow, I have to send another newsletter today. Now, that's not to say that you still can't do serendipitous, impromptu type email blast. You could still do that, but you just know you have the peace of mind to know that, hey, I'm staying in contact with my list all the time. Why is that important? One of the main reasons why that is important, once you get into this email game, you'll start understanding that there's the concept of a warm list and a cold list. Now, a warm list means people are expecting mails from you. They know who you are. They like you. They trust you. you're not spam. That's a warm list. When they get an email from you, they're more likely to open it, which increases your open rate, makes your list warmer, right? So that's a warm list. A cold list is a list that they have no idea who you are, and they get upset when they get spam from you, because everyone already has a full inbox, and now they're getting a message from this person that didn't sign up for. Some examples of cold lists are lists that you purchase. Like you can get Google email list, and you could go buy a list of photographers if you wanted, 1 million, 2 million, whatever. Load that. First of all, let me caution you against doing that. I would suggest not to do that. But if you did it and loaded that list into your email service provider, first of all, you're going to get charged because you put so many emails in there. Secondly, those people have no idea who you are. So when you send them a message, you may get a little bit of lift. You may get, a small percentage of people that will be like, what's this? And click on it. But you'll get very few conversions. And a conversion is when someone actually purchases something or does an act that you want them to do. They won't do it because you're missing a lot of things, which we're going to hit on in subsequent slides. You're missing that know, like, and trust factor. A list of names is just hollow calories. It's not going to give you anything, which is why we get spam and why we hate it, right? The next thing is list segmentation. So this is an important feature of an email service provider, meaning that you can go in and have one main list with everybody on it and then sub-segment it off into little sections. Like, for example, in the case of TWiP or This Week in Photo, my main list in MailChimp is a big, long list. And then I've got people on it. I've got segments for the TWiP school and even sub-segments underneath that for each course in the TWiP school. I've got people that have joined from the website and they're in their own list. I've got people that have joined from TWiP Pro, our community. They're in their own little segment in there. So what that gives me is the ability to send messages to just those segments instead of the whole list. But this gets really fun when you start talking about tagging. And this is kind of nerdy, but it's important. So tagging this is relatively new to the sort of solopreneur level of marketing or running your business. Tagging, well, if we back up a little bit, so remember that list I told you about? So if you have a long list of email addresses for your business, right? Someone joins, say John Doe comes in, joins your list. This is with old school email marketing without tagging. John joins your list, right? He gets on it, he's on your list. And now he's like, oh, wow, I like this guy. He's kind of cool. I want to go buy a course from the school. So go over to the TWiP school, pick a course, purchase that. Now, John's on my list twice. Now John says, I'm going to join the community. Now John's on my list 3 times. So I got 3 instances of John's email name on my list. Why is that? Why does that suck? Well, it sucks because A, you get charged by how many names are on your list. It doesn't matter if they're identical. That your email service provider will see that as 3 different names and charge you accordingly. Well, so if you're at a plan that says you could have up to 2,000 names on your list, and then John joins from 3 different services, he puts you over that 2,000. Now you're in a paid tier, right? So that's why that's important. Tagging, however, takes a smart kind of tact at this, where John joins the list and John goes to TWiP school. Now John's email address just gets tagged with, now John has been to TWiP school. He's got a TWiP school tag on him. Now he goes to the store or wherever, he'll just get tags for wherever he signs up. It could be that he could sign up to 30 different, fill his email address and forms 30 different times. He will still only appear on my email list 1 time, but with 30 tags. That way I can look at my email list within my ESP and I could say, oh, I want to send messages to all the people that have signed up for these 12 things. He would appear in there and he would get the message, not 3 times as in the previous example. So that's the tagging stuff. So like I was saying, my email service provider of choice is MailChimp. I don't have any sort of affiliate agreement or any business agreement with them. It's just I've been using them and they work really well for me. They've got a high deliverability rate and they're great. And one of the reasons why I recommend them in talks like this is because they are free for the first 2,000 names that you have on your list. They're 100% free. If you have 1 million people on your list, or there's someone with 1 million people versus you with 1,000 or 1,500, you have the exact same feature set. And what that gives you is the ability to start playing with this stuff and start driving people to your email list. And I think that 2,000 number is basically if you go beyond that, I think MailChimp just assumes that, okay, if you've got 3,000 people on your list, you're probably monetizing it. If you're monetizing it, you can afford the fee to pay their monthly fee, which is not that high anyway. So definitely check out MailChimp.com as one of the tools to help you start taking control of things. All right, so let's answer some questions. So back to that 6 grid, right? So why are you doing this? What's your motivation for doing this? These are questions that you have to ask yourself. And a lot of this stuff, I realize I'm going fast, but a lot of this stuff, or all of this stuff, and a ton more will be in that course that I'll tell you about at the end here. But are you doing this for networking? Are you doing this because you want to make business contacts, right? Are you a friend collector, which is perfectly fine? You're like one of those people that just like, hey, look, I got 30,000 friends on Facebook. I know 5 of them, but I have 30,000, which is valid. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do, right? Or are you using social media and these sorts of tactics to generate customers and leads or referrals or just traffic to your website? Or is it ego and self-esteem, which goes to that friend collector thing, right? Are you doing this because you just want to feel good about yourself? You like to think that people are paying attention to you and you're cool. Or you doing this is the worst thing, right? The last one is the worst of all these, is you're doing this because everyone else is doing it. Right? The only reason you're on social media is because everyone else is on social media, so you figure you should do it too. Now you're back to being that fish in the middle of the school of fish that's just swimming with them, not knowing that they're swimming, into an oil slick or something, right? So you got to have a plan for this stuff. All right, the next thing is who are you talking to? Who is your audience? If you're a wedding photographer, is your audience brides? Right? And why does this matter? This matters because the vernacular that you use to talk to the people that you're talking to changes based on who you're talking to, right? So a photographer, if you're trying to market to brides, the way that you talk to those brides is going to be different than the way that you talk to friends and family, right? Or different from the way that you talk to people that are customers of a digital product. Everything is different. So you have to know your core, in political terms, you have to know who your core constituency is and speak in their language so that you can resonate with them, right? Are you talking to other photographers? That's a perfectly valid segment. Are you just a photographer and the only reason you're using social media is because, you want to interact with other photographers to help you get better, which is perfectly valid, but you just have to put a pin in that and understand that that's your motivation. Are you talking to students or people, prospective students, like people that would be coming to the TWiP school? Is that the crowd? You're going to talk to those people differently than if you were talking to, say, a gallery owner. Like if you have aspirations to say, what, my goal is to start or I want to have a gallery show in San Francisco and Sacramento and New York and Los Angeles and wherever, right? That's my goal. So if that's your goal, you're going to talk in a manner of speaking that makes you sound like you'd be a person that could successfully put on a gallery show. You're going to be talking in terms that tell that prospective gallery owner that you understand art and the art world, and you're classy enough to run a gallery show where people are eating cheese and sipping wine, right? But you're going to talk to them completely different than if you were talking to other photographers about f-stops and shutter speeds and ISO, right? So you got to know who you're talking to. The where should you be posting piece of this, the location. This is tricky, right? Because you might think that, hey, I can just post everything on Facebook. I'll post the same stuff on Twitter. I'll post the same stuff on, or a picture version of it on Instagram, Pinterest, etc. But you got to consider where your audience is. And once you identify where your audience is going to tell you where and how you should be posting. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Twitter, Pinterest, Flickr? I don't know. Is anybody still using Flickr? I still have a Flickr account. YouTube, Instagram, right? And each one of these has it's a different party on each one. Each one has a different vibe to how the comment systems work. They have different vibes to, like, for example, in the case of Facebook, they have sophisticated algorithms that decide based on unknown data when and how and who is going to see your message, right? If you post a message, say you got 100,000 followers, friends on Facebook, right? You post a message, it's not going to be seen by 100,000 people unless you pay money. That's the part of the Facebook business model. You get friends for them and show Facebook that you have, you know, the weight to and the gravity to pull in all these people around you, and then they charge you to talk to them. That's part of the Facebook business model. It's fine. It works for them, right? And to some degree on these other services as well, if you want to purchase advertising on them. So just keep that in mind. Location matters with this stuff. And then what should you be posting? What's your voice? So establishing, and this has been kind of the underlying thread in this talk, establishing your voice, the who and the how you talk is critical, right? You don't like, some people ask me when we're talking social media, should I just have one account? Because it sounds easy. I just want one account. I want to post everything on there. I want to have all my friends and family on there. I want to have business stuff on there. I want to run promotions on there. I caution against that. If you can separate your church and state, your family and business, or your family and friends and business, because those are two different sides of you, of most of us, right? So friends and family, you want to share jokes, you want to get political, you want to be polarizing, you want to say what you think. Business, you're not going to want to do that. You want to stay away from, like, the things in business that you generally want to stay away from talking about in social media are politics. There's no one right answer in politics. Politics, religion, sexual orientation. Those are the hot buttons. That there are many other hot buttons, but that's the trifecta of no one right answer, and you are guaranteed to piss someone off if you try to tackle or give your opinion on one of those. On the friend side, sure, you can talk about that stuff all day long and get into long, heated arguments with Uncle Bob about why your candidate is better than the other one. But on business, no, we don't do that on business, because that will ostracize yourself from a large part of the audience. Keep your political, religious, and sexual orientation type comments to yourself in business. Share them on another account, and that's a good reason to have two accounts. Converse, don't brag, right? So this is tricky because it's hard. It's depending on your personality type. Social media is a conversation. Social media is a conversation. It is not a platform for you to go stand and tell everyone your opinion, then to go stand, go back into your corner. It is a conversation. The analogy would be a party in downtown Chicago. It's a hip party. You go to this hip party and you're hanging out. You're not going to go in there and, like in a normal party, it's generally people go in and then they coalesce into smaller groups, and then some electrons migrate to other smaller groups. And, that's how parties work. But in those smaller groups, people are talking. They have similar likes and interests, and they want to find out about the other people. And, they're having conversations. So you're just talking back and forth. You're not selling anything. The bragging person goes into that situation and instantly says, and I know people like this, they'll instantly in the first 3 minutes of the conversation let you know that they went to Harvard or Stanford or something like that, right? Or, hey, I've all these positive things about them. They start talking about themselves. That is not the way to hold a social media conversation. If you do that, if you're constantly talking about yourself and trying to make yourself feel better and being self-aggrandizing, then in that club party situation, people will politely excuse themselves and go do other things. You don't want to be that person. So you want to have conversations, not bragging. Bragging in social media, another example is, you're taking photos of your food and showing everyone, hey, look at this great meal that I'm going to sit down and have when you're sitting at home with your ramen noodles, right? So there's ways to do that and ways not to do that. So just be cognizant of that faux pas. You want to add value, and you don't want to sell in social media. Back to that party example. Like you don't walk into a party and say, hey everyone, limited time only, I got this thing right here, and this is right on sale, you got to have this. Again, you'll be ostracized and you'll be sitting in the corner drinking by yourself, right? You want to add value. So you want to add value to the conversation. You want to talk. There's ways to work in social media. There's ways to work in your messaging without being obtrusive and overbearing, right? So don't add value and don't sell. It's okay to share links, but here's a tip on sharing links. Don't just share links, right? If you're online, don't, and this goes for, because I have people that do this a lot too. This goes for social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc., or not so much Instagram because it's photo based, but Facebook, Twitter, and messaging, direct messaging. Don't just put a link in there and say, hey, go check this out. I'm just forwarding this to you. Put some context around the link that you're sending. If it's a link, like for example, photography, I get links and recommendations for photographers that I should have on This Week in Photo for interviews. So a lot of people will just say, hey, AnnieLeibovitz.com, and that's it, with no context around it. And then I have to do the research and click and say, oh, okay, yeah. Where in my mind, I'm like, why didn't you just say, hey, have you considered having Annie Leibovitz on your show? I think she's great. I really like to know more about her choices in A, B, and C. Here's a link. That makes it infinitely more valuable than just, here's a link, go check it out. So be cognizant of that. And then of course, share your photography online, right? Where most of us in this webinar right now are photographers, and that's the name of the game, right? So you want to establish yourself and get feedback on your photography. But all of this rolls back to establishing that voice. So the photos that you share, the caption or whatever you put along with that photo is part of your voice. It's part of the vernacular that you're speaking to brides in, that you're speaking to students and all that stuff, or other photographers. You're going to post a different photo if you're speaking to photographers versus if you're speaking to brides. So just keep that in mind. But of course, we all know we're photographers. That's the name of the game. It's all about sharing images. So let's talk about, we're coming to the end here. Let's talk a little about reciprocity. So what is reciprocity? If you're old enough and you've shot film, there's something called reciprocity failure. We won't go into that. This reciprocity is different. And these are some really interesting sort of triggers that we call them, social triggers that are important to the stuff we do. In this context, reciprocity is the practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit. Why does it matter in solopreneurship or marketing? So that matters because this is one of 6 triggers that you have in you that you may not even know that you have in you. The reciprocity. Most humans, and I would argue many mammals overall, have this feature, and that is if someone gives you something of value or does something for you, or you feel like things are imbalanced for whatever reason, you have a tug inside of you to balance things. You don't want to have red in your ledger for some reason, right? So you will try to balance it and give back to them. We exploit that. Maybe exploit is a bad word, but we leverage that in marketing, and you see it all around you, reciprocity, because you will get a lot of free things, and then when that entity, business, person, otherwise, asks you for something, it's much easier for you to give them something. Here's an example, which may scare you. There's this group called Hare Krishnas. There's I don't know if they're still around. I think they are, but they would hang out in airports. They wore like the white robes and shaved heads, and they dance around, right? And part of their marketing was to give you a flower. So they would just come up to you and say, "Hey, hello, how are you doing? I would like to give you this flower," and they would give you a flower. Once you accepted that flower, reciprocity kicked in, because the very next thing out of their mouth would be, "We would like a small donation of, or would you be so kind as to give a small donation to us of, whatever you feel in your heart," right? You have this flower now. Now you feel compelled. The science, as there have been many articles written about this, if you don't accept the flower, you're about 10% likely to donate. If you do accept the flower, 90% of people donate to the Hare Krishnas. So keep that in mind. When someone gives you something free on the street, the next line out of their mouth is probably going to be an ask, right? And you're going to feel compelled, because those tugs are like, "I got to balance the universe. They gave me something," right? So there's a book that I want you guys to either write this down or screenshot it. It's called Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion. And it goes in, like, if you think reciprocity is powerful, that's a powerful technique. It's made people millions of dollars, right? Just on reciprocity alone. In this book, he goes over 6 triggers, 6 of the main triggers I want to talk about. So what are these? The first one's reciprocity. The second one is commitment and consistency. We are creatures of habit. We love commitment and consistency. This is one of the reasons I have scheduled our podcast live stream and recording for every Wednesday at 6 p.m. sharp. Every Wednesday without fail, we do it at 6 p.m. sharp. We're in there. People can rely on it. People, for some reason, in their head, they like to rely on it, and they attach a value to it if it's there all the time, versus, "Oh yeah, we feel like doing a show. This week it's on Thursday," or "This week it's actually on Monday at noon," right? The value drops of that particular thing if it's every week at the same time. I mean, we've been programmed from early on with that. Even in the days of radio, the radio shows were on at a certain time and day every week. Television, same way, right? And then now with the stuff that we're doing, you can do the same thing. The next thing is social proof. Social proof is a huge trigger. Social proof is, here's an example of social proof. You're in a strange town. You just landed with your significant other, and you guys want to go hit a restaurant. You go to the restaurant district. There's 5 restaurants on the street. One of them has 2 people in it. Another one has a line outside that's 30 minutes long. Which one are you going to go to? You're going to go to one with the line, because the society has said that that restaurant has good food. The other one may very well have better food, but you will never know because there's only 2 people in there. You will go to the social proof one. Another example of that is YouTube. Most of us have watched YouTube videos. If you're searching for something, you want to learn about a particular thing, you put in your keyword search, you get a list of videos. You are going to go to and watch the video that has 50,000 views on it before you watch the one that has 500 views on it. Why? Even though the one that has 500 views is better, you're going to watch the one that has 50,000 because it's got social proof and weight. And then authority. We tend to listen to, as a knee-jerk reaction, to people that are in positions of authority, whether it be someone that's running a webinar like Troy Miller, or a doctor who's, on television. They have a white lab coat. That means they're an authority, or a police officer, or whomever, whoever we feel like is an authority, we feel like we should listen to them. For some reason, they know more than we do about things. So I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to put more weight on what they say than the next person. That's authority. And then know, like, and trust. So people, and this is all science, I'm not making any of this up. So people purchase from people or do business with people that they know, like, and trust. It's a trifecta. 2 of them or 1 of them don't work. 3 of them together, there's a much higher likelihood that the person will buy your service or hire you or whatever, right? For example, if someone knows and likes you, but they don't trust you, they're not going to do business with you. If they like you, you're a great person, and they trust you, but they don't really know you that well, they're not going to do business with you. If they know and trust you, like they know who you are, and they trust that you say you're going to do what you're going to do, but they just don't like you very much, they're not going to do business with you, right? You got to have all 3 of them. You have to have know, like, and trust. And most of us as humans, most of us are human, um, instinctively build the know, like, and trust, right? When we meet new people, we get to know them, we like them, and then over time, the trust comes. Same with business. They have to know, like, and trust you in order for them to want to do business with you. If you rewind back in this presentation, I was talking about those autoresponders. The autoresponder series, if someone has gotten 50 emails from you over 50 weeks and you've been giving them information, they know who you are, that you've been giving them information about photography or weddings or landscape photography, whatever. Now they trust you. They know who you are. They trust you. They like you. You've built authority because clearly you know what you're talking about. If they go to your website or your YouTube channel and there's a bunch of people there, you've built social proof. You're sending emails on a schedule, so you've built consistency. What comes from that? Reciprocity. So now when you ask for something, you say, hey, you know what? I'm launching this online course. It's going out in a couple of weeks, and you can sign up. And this is after you've been engaging with them dozens of times. There's a much higher likelihood that they'll say, oh yeah, of course. Why not? You give me a ton of stuff over the years. Plus I trust you and your stuff is good. I'm in, right? You got to do that versus going and purchasing an email list and then sending out an offer to that list, right? So you see the difference? You purchase a list, they don't know, like, or trust you. You have no authority, no social proof, no commitment or consistency, nothing to build reciprocity. They're just an email list that's getting spam from you. They're not going to do business with you. You have all those things lined up. When they get an email from you, you're going to feel like an old friend that they want to do business with. So keep that in mind. The last one is huge, and we've seen this every day. This is scarcity and fear of missing out, FOMO, right? Scarcity is limited time only or buy now, those sorts of things that increase the value of a product or service because there's a limited it's scarce, right? It's like gold or diamonds or platinum or whatever. There's so little of it, that means the value is high. How that translates to online scarcity, for example, like here's an example, not online, back to that restaurant example. If there's a hot new restaurant downtown and it's sold out for 6 weeks, of course, you're going to want to go there. Clearly the value is high. Almost any price will be worth it. You're not going to complain about price if you can get a reservation there. Same with, say, a Broadway show or something like that. Online, that translates to when internet marketers will like, say they're doing a course or something like that, or some sort of digital thing. They will say, hey, it's going to be available on Friday for 48 hours. And then on Sunday, we are at midnight, we're shutting the doors. It's going to be not available for another 6 months. So in your head, you're like, oh, wow, that thing's kind of cool. Especially if you've built up all these other influence principles already. You're like, oh, wow, I kind of want that. And it's going to be gone. All right, I better go get it now. If they didn't put the scarcity on there and they just said, hey, here's this thing, it's available, go get it whenever you want, then you would be like, yeah, that's kind of cool, I like it, yeah, let me think about it, let me go ask my spouse, let me go do whatever, right? You'll think about it, and then the likelihood of you purchasing drops exponentially. If you put the scarcity trigger on there, boom, things happen, right? So I would definitely recommend that book. And also there's a book, I didn't put a slide in here for it, but there's a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook from Gary Vaynerchuk. And he talks a lot about the building up the equity with your constituency in terms of giving things. It's almost like a social bank where you give value, you keep depositing value where with free information and value adds before you make a deposit. So that's the jab, 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 right hook. Jab, jab, jab is deposit, deposit, deposit. Right hook is withdrawal, right? And I would argue you probably want to go more than 3. So you keep depositing and then you ask, right? So that's that. So let's quickly go over when to post and timing. So timing matters. The frequency of the posts, like, do you post all day? Like, are you the person that wants to do a chronology of your life to everyone? Like, hey, I got up in the morning. I feel like crap. Okay, here's me having my coffee. All right, now I'm running. Look at me, I'm running. Okay, now I'm back home getting dressed. Now I'm in the car. And that, do you is that, depending on your audience, if your audience is friends and family and they want to know what you're up to, that may be valid. If we're in business, not so much, unless you're a celebrity, right? So in that instance, someone like Kim Kardashian, or, name your celebrity, insert your own celebrity. If you're a fan of that celebrity, you're interested in what they're doing down to that level of minutia. But in business, not so much. When you post is going to vary by platform. And like I was saying with Facebook, they have their own little math on when they're going to let your post show or not, versus Twitter. Like on a Twitter, I call Twitter like an infinite toilet paper roll, right? So it just keeps scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So when you put your little mark on that toilet paper, it's going to scroll down and be gone, right? So you got to be cognizant of that. Time of day also matters, because that comes in with time zone considerations. So time of day, at any given point in time, half of the planet, for the most part, is asleep. So if you're in the half that's awake and you send a message, remember that infinite toilet paper roll? It's going to scroll off and be gone in the ether by the time half of the world is awake. So posting in 12-hour increments the same message in a lot of cases makes a lot of sense. So keep that in mind. So here's that give, 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 ask, right? This is that Gary Vaynerchuk thing, the jab, 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 right hook. Multiple times per day. Like I was saying, it could make sense. At least twice a day would be my suggestion if you want to keep, well, twice in any given day, not every day. So if you're gonna, like, say you decide you're not a frequent flyer poster, right? You just decide, you know what, I'm gonna post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On those Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, posting twice a day at some point in the morning, some point in the evening, the same message makes a lot of sense. And it's not to say that you can't be serendipitous with your posting. You could say, I'm going to do my 2 posts, but then, hey, some alien spacecraft landed in my backyard. I got to post that. It's fine. You can post that, but as long as you have a cadence going so that you can feel good about you're doing the right thing, you're engaging with your audiences, etc. Post when you have a reason to. What I was alluding to in the beginning was, do you post because you are trying to get attention and you just need to kind of keep splashing in the water so that people notice you? Or do you have a reason to post? And, to sort of niche that down a little bit is, if you're telling a story in social media, like you're doing a 1-a-day project where you're taking a photo every day, or you're doing something every day and you want to chronicle that is a huge reason why you want to post. If you're not doing that and you're just posting, you're like, oh crap, I haven't posted today. Let me find something to post. I would argue you probably should maybe hold off on posting, right? So there's that. So the tools, what are the tools for posting? So you can obviously use the websites for all these services to post directly to the service, aside from Instagram, which requires you to be on a mobile device. You can use the app, like in the case of Instagram. Indirect, using client software, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Ghostwriters and surrogates. So ghostwriters and surrogates are people that you hire or ask to post on your behalf because you're too busy or too important to do it yourself. There's celebrities that do this, or the groups that I generally see doing this are celebrities, politicians, and people that don't understand social media that well, right? So they'll just say, you know what, here's my username, password, take it and post on my behalf, and, let me know what happens. I would argue against doing that. Some people do that and just say, hey, my grandkid posts on my account. So I would argue against that if you can at all help it. Scheduling is what we're going to talk about in a second. That's part of this automation. So here's some automation tools. And once there's a couple of these are going to show up on the screen capture this and go check these out, because these are services that allow you to write out posts, much like when in the email section we were talking about autoresponders. You can do the same thing with social media posts for Instagram, for Twitter, for Facebook, where you spread your posting out and pre-program it over time and then go on vacation. And now you have a robot essentially that's posting for you. But these posts, if you do the automation, what breaks in social media is nothing that you put in that canned sequence can be timely. It has to be evergreen. So you can't put any politics, you can't put anything in there that's going to go bad, right? You have to put things in like pithy inspirational sayings or tips and tricks on how to do certain kinds of photography, things like that you could put in there. Other than that, you can't. So here's some services. There's Buffer. These are some of the more popular ones. Buffer and Hootsuite are really popular. Planoly is an Instagram posting service where you can pre-program out your Instagram posts. Actually, these three, Planoly, Unum, and Later.com, allow you to pre-schedule out your posts over time. The cool thing about these is, especially from a photographer standpoint, Instagram, when you're looking at it on a phone, or most phones, is a grid of 9 squares, right, for the most part. What these services allow you to do is design those 9 squares beforehand so that when all your posts are done and someone goes to your Instagram profile, they see a beautiful body of work that looks curated, right? And you can do that really easily with these services. Okay, so let's bring it all together. We're coming in for the home stretch now. So bringing all this together, these are the things that you need to do, like right now, right? So create a personal plan. And what is a personal plan? The personal plan, when you sit down, will be, why am I doing this? Is this for business? Is this for pleasure? Who am I talking to? Why am I talking to them? When should I be talking to them? When should I be posting? You're going to build a posting routine. I'm going to post every day in the morning after I have my morning coffee. Then I'm done until the evening when I get home. Then I'll repost that. Anything that happens in between is fair game. I may post then too, but it's part of my routine to do it on A and B. You want to measure your effectiveness. A lot of these sites have analytics. They allow you to see engagement for the things that you post. What I also like to advocate is, if you're sharing links to things, use a service like Bitly, bit.ly.com. So if you're sharing a URL, you can paste that URL or that link in Bitly, and it will spit out a tiny or a small URL that you can then share. And what that gives you is you can go on Bitly and see the engagement and the clicks on those links that you share. So definitely check that out. And with those link sharing, the last one here is adjust and rinse and repeat. So adjust means over time, some things are going to work, some things are going to fail, some things are going to succeed, some things are going to fail spectacularly, some things are going to succeed spectacularly. Your job as a solopreneur is to be flexible enough and smart enough to not take it personally when things fail, and look at the successes, do more of the successes and trim the failures. So, hey, it doesn't work when I do this, this, and this, or my engagement dropped when I did this and then this. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do more of these things that succeed. So these kinds of directions and vectors will reveal themselves over time. All right, so this is the last slide here. Some things to remember. The conclusion, grow that email list. If you don't have an email service provider yet, get one. My recommendation is MailChimp, especially if you have nothing right now. Even if you don't sign up, go to MailChimp and look in their learning library and just spend some time looking at how things work, and light bulbs will start clicking like, oh, wow, I should have had this all along. use social to grow your list. You remember that slide where I had the planet with the satellites around it? Remember that, right? Social is here to grow your list. It's not, use it in that metaphor. You're not growing an audience for Facebook. You're growing your own audience. You want to own your own audience and use those services to drive traffic back to you whenever possible. Social media is satellites. You control the relationship. If I don't leave you with anything, is you need to control the relationship from the social media providers, because it's volatile. And it is proven over and over again by people losing their livelihood because they posted the wrong thing or said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing online, that livelihood can easily be taken away. If you own the relationship with your customer or your client or whomever, then it doesn't matter if Zuckerberg or whomever says, I don't think you are worthy to be on my platform anymore, right? So definitely do not hand the keys to your business to Mark Zuckerberg. Like, if you look at this guy, like, do you want to trust the relationship that you have with your customers to this person? I would probably argue no. I mean, that's what I would say to that. You do not want to trust or leave the relationship that you have with your constituents, your customers, your students, your friends, your family in the hands of Facebook, right? All right, so this is the last slide here. Thanks for holding in with me. This is the IEPPV exclusive. This has been kind of a preview of the Creative Solopreneur course, which is going to go on sale in the TWiP school in a couple weeks here, May 1st, May Day, for 149 bucks. And if you take a screenshot of this, you'll grab all this stuff. But it's at twippro.com/solopreneur. That's one of those short URLs I told you about. And this slide is kind of a practice what you preach slide, right? So this slide is practicing okay, I've established authority throughout this presentation. Hopefully they know, like, and trust me. I've added a scarcity trigger on here. 48 hours from today, this code will vanish, right? So there's a scarcity trigger. And, so there's a number of things going on here. The code is IEPPV-2018. If you enter that within the next 48 hours, when the course becomes available on May 1st, you'll get an email and it'll say, hey, the course is ready for you to go check out. But you have to get it now in order to get that discount, or otherwise it'll be $149. That code drops it down to $50. All right, and that's it. Troy Miller, if you're still awake, you can come back on screen.
I'm here. Wow.
We take questions.
I can hear the clapping. I hear the clapping happening. Yep, that's awesome. Very nice. Very nice. You're going to turn off your screen there.
I'm trying to turn it off. All right, let me get out of here.
As you were going through it, I was sort of thinking in my head some challenges that some people may have as they're either new to their business, or, they've started this for a while. Maybe they've changed the target of their business. So, with social media and putting a presence out there, what would you say is the order of presence platforms? Like, what's the order of the platform that they should focus on? Somebody new. I mean, let's say you just started a business. You don't have a website really. Maybe you have the Instagram and Twitter names and you're just not sure. What should be your order of focus?
It depends, right? So, and I hate to say it depends, but it does depend. It depends on who you're talking to. If I don't know who I'm talking to, and I'm just like, someone says, hey, I want to jump into the social media game, they're a photographer, I'll make the presupposition that they're a photographer. I would say I would guide them to Instagram first, because it seems like the party is moving in a lot of ways to Instagram, and there's a lot of overhead with Facebook for a lot of reasons, right? So, but Facebook owns Instagram, so you're still on Facebook.
But so what you're saying is you're saying even before you go build a website,
yeah,
go to Instagram.
If you had asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said, no, you got to build a website first, right? You have to build a website first. These days, and this sounds weird and like heresy, but these days there are people that don't even have a website, Troy.
Oh, I know. I would probably disagree slightly in that uh, if you're going to go start Instagram, you're going to have to plug in a whole lot of photos to create a history of transparency of who you are and what kind of work you can do.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're absolutely right. They're pretty close. They're pretty challenging. So
yeah. I mean, ultimately,
Instagram, website.
the ultimate suite of stuff that I think you should have would be, you need a web, like all roads lead to your website, right? So that
Right.
your email list, like I was saying in the presentation. So if you're just starting and you're wondering what, if I got to get on one platform, what platform should I be on? I would say Instagram, but your planet, your home base is your email address or your email list and your website, right?
Right.
Or your gallery. And that could just be like, you could start it, you could go to a site like hover.com, register your domain and point it at a smug mug gallery or a pixie set gallery or whatever, right? And that will hold you until you build a full-on website.
Right. And Instagram now, you can set up a business account. It's free. You can convert it to a business account, which gives you the option of putting a call button in there, like your website contact info. So that's actually cool. Okay, that's really good.
But just keep in mind, if you do that, you can do that with Instagram. But if you convert your Instagram account to business, it treats it differently in terms of who it's going to show your posts to.
Right. Which that what it does today and what it does tomorrow could completely change. So you always got to throw yourself.
Yeah, someone at Facebook or Instagram could have a nightmare tonight and then go in and write some code and change your entire life.
Right. So imagine somebody has Instagram. What would be a good regular posting schedule? You talked about it a little bit, but aside from all those different reasons, what would somebody want to start at?
I mean, that's easy. I would say at least once a day, right? If you can manage it once a day, that kind of cadence seems to be the norm on the internet of people. But if you, again, with the one of the social triggers of consistency, if you do that, you want to establish that, hey, I'm a 1 a day poster, and do that all the time. If you rewind that back and say, I'm not really going to have one photo a day to post, I'm going to do it once a week, that's not frequent enough for you to stay in mind of people. If that's your goal, is to kind of stay within the mind of people, posting once a week, remember that infinite roll of toilet paper? You're in the landfill.
Right.
So
right. I would add to that, if you're going to post once a day, make sure that your content is relevant and hopefully unique enough that each day that's appetizing. If you're just posting the exact same stuff every single day, you're going to get lost really fast. I am a very picky Instagram viewer. If you post every day and it's the same type of shots, I'm out.
Yeah.
That's me. I move on. So,
yeah. When you say same type of shots, you mean like if someone's posting, landscapes every day, you get bored. You want them to post landscapes and then some macro and then maybe a portrait. You want to see variety.
If it's sunsets of the pier and it's always a pier and it's always sunsets and it's always, I'm going to have a really hard time being engaged in your content. And there's a lot of photographers that have a style, and I really love their style, but they're posting new stuff they're doing, new styles they're doing, new places to go.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see this guy's next image because it's inspirational. So those are some things. Also, how important is like a lot of this stuff is about marketing and pushing yourself out there. But before all that, what about building a brand? How important is it for somebody to sit down and say, this is who I want you to see me as? And find maybe a designer or somebody to help you build what your business is going to look like?
I think it's hugely important. Like I mentioned in the beginning, making or establishing who you are and what the vernacular or voice of your business is, what the look and feel is, and look and feel and voice narrows down to, do you want to be perceived as, the low price leader like Walmart, or do you want to be the Tiffany's, the jewelry counter in Walmart versus Tiffany's, where if you have to ask, you can't afford it type place, right? Which market do you want to compete in? In the Walmart, you're going to get a lot of people, and you may make as much money as the Tiffany's person, but because the Tiffany's person will make one sale to equal 10 of yours, right? So which place do you want to play in, and where's your market? And all that's dictated by the kind of stuff that you want to do, right? What kind of photography, what kind of market do you want to play in? Not everyone wants to play in the high-end Tiffany's, spare no expense, every box is made of wood, that kind of thing.
And you market to those people differently, though, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, they're going to have a different expectation from what your website might look like, or what your Instagram feed looks like, or whether you're on Twitter and Instagram, or as Mark was commenting in the chat, he markets a lot on LinkedIn because he's only going for commercial jobs with the clients that he's dealing with. He's not really in the social world like I am for weddings. My brides go and look at my website. They want to see a body of work. They want to go to Instagram and see that, oh, this is the wedding that he just shot, or here's what a bride. That's transparency for me. They need to see that. But your brand would be your style of work, the kind of customer you're looking for. With that said, would you agree that whether you're in the same segment of business, that there are different customers or different clients, even in the same genre of photography, for different photographers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I would even go so far as to say that, and most of the people that are in this webinar probably already know this too, that the interesting sort of way things lay out is the less or the lower the price of something, the more interactions you have with the client.
Perceived value, right?
Well, not even perceived value. It's more of, I'm trying to be politically correct here. People that don't pay a lot complain a lot.
No, you were
People
absolutely
that pay a lot complain very little, right? It's so weird.
And that a lot is different depending on the market that you're in.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really hard too, because a lot of times a new photographer will come forward and say, well, I want to figure out my pricing, and this is what everybody's doing, because I went on social media and I looked at what everybody else is doing. So this is what I want to start charging. And that can be really tough, right? Because they don't really know who their market is yet. And then how do you know what your Instagram feed looks like? And how do you know how many times you post? And, there's a big, I'm sure you probably cover a lot of this stuff, right? In your
but a lot of the issue is time, right? That's the one thing that we can't control. We can't control a lot, but that's the big thing that we can't control, that everyone is slave to, and that's time. And building out the look and feel and finding your voice, and if you're a new photographer, finding what your genre is and finding your style and building your lists and building up your constituencies and your followers and friends and subscribers, all that stuff is not turnkey. It's not like, okay, tonight I'm going to build a social media presence and have a bunch of people in there with me.
No, that's something you would do. I've seen you work. You've got it in your head. You're like, bang.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Digital alchemy, right?
Yeah.
No, we're kidding. But seriously, like you can, even if you like spend all the time going through courses and learning and watching videos and following people and second shooting and all this stuff, there is no substitute for time. And I would argue making mistakes. Like, people that, I think some of the most, some of the most unsuccessful, or let's flip it on its side. Some of the most successful people are the people that have made the most mistakes and have been willing to take the risks to try and fail. But then when they fail, they learn from those mistakes, pick themselves up and say, well, that didn't work. Let me go try this other thing. Right. And then they end up starting SpaceX and Tesla and Apple. Right. But the road to those successes are littered with monumental failures to get there. In fact, in Silicon Valley, if you go to a venture capitalist here in Silicon Valley or down in Silicon Valley from here, they, part of their screening process, they want to know how many times you have failed. How many businesses have you started and failed? And you would think that that's a detractor. That's a positive, because they want to know that you failed before. You're not some bright-eyed kid that's like, oh yeah, this is the next best thing. It's going to revolutionize photography. They don't want to be the one. They don't want to be on your road of failures. They want to be the success at the end of that. Right.
Right. So the lesson from that is, what I'm hearing is, throw yourself at it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yep.
Try.
Yep.
Don't not try, because what if I fail? But if you fail or something doesn't work the way it should, then you learn the lesson.
Right. Try. Okay. That's half of it. Try and keep trying. When and if you fail, the trigger or the key is not to give up. Because most of the people that you're surrounded with will keep trying. They'll like try all this stuff and they'll get excited and like, yeah, we're going to do this. And they'll build their spreadsheet. Troy, like people that are jumping into the wedding game, like they'll have their spreadsheet. If I do this many weddings, I can make this much money. Honey, look at this. We can make $250,000 a year. I'm quitting my job. Then when they try it and fail, they're like, well, that didn't work. All right, I'm going to go work at Starbucks. Right.
Right.
That is the point. That's the filter. That point right there, getting excited, trying, then failing, and then saying, okay, well, that didn't work. Let me try it a different way. Those are the people that succeed, that keep trying it a different way versus like, I'm going to try something completely different. You never end up getting out of the bucket, right? When you keep trying different things.
Well, with that said, I would say that photography is one of those unique industries where you almost need to have an apprenticeship with someone.
Yeah.
You almost need to find somebody that you really like, that's the work I want to do. I really want to do that, and be their apprentice for a time, because there are things that there is no way in any amount of time that we could discuss or share or bring on as many guests that are going to give you that same experience as actually being in the shoot with another photographer, seeing how they handle a call, seeing how they make their notes, seeing how they respond to challenges.
Yeah.
So, all of the tools we've talked about here are aside from that, but maybe find yourself a photographer, throw yourself into that, build your brand, and then now you know how to market, because Frederick's a genius in marketing. Let me tell you, he is good. He is good at it.
I wouldn't go so far as to say genius.
You're doing good. You're doing.
I just made a lot of mistakes and took notes. That's all.
99 ways not to make a light bulb, right?
Yeah. I do.
That's amazing. Well, hey, I thank you so much for being here. I know that everybody has learned so much from you. If you could just one more time, just give us that quick code, which I wrote down. Which is IEPPV 2018, and the website that they could go to.
The website is TWiP.pro, TWiP.pro/solopreneur, SOLOpreneur. That's it.
Great. And then they can check you out, and just Frederick Van Johnson anywhere this week in photo, TWiPPro.com. TWiP Pro is an amazing community. What was the quote that you said about TWiP Pro? You said it's like a virtual airport lounge.
Yes.
And it is. If you haven't been there, I'm part of the pro community. We have a lot of conversations, a lot of neat stuff. It's kind of like an IEPPV meeting that just goes on forever, because there's always somebody awake. There's somebody from Australia. There's somebody from New York. There's somebody from Southern California. We're always in there chatting, sharing ideas, doing regular image critiques. You guys may have seen some of those.
We have in the TWiP Pro community, we have members over 11 time zones right now.
Nice.
I didn't even know there were 11 times.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, hey, again, thank you, Frederick, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this and staying with us and watching. This will be recorded. And for those of you that are IEPPV members, it will be our IEPPV premium members. This will be available in sometime in the near future. The rest of you, we'll talk to Frederick, and we'll see what we can do about getting out to you guys as well. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
all right, buddy, I am going to stop recording.